Hi there, all my fellow knitters around the world, and welcome to episode 8 of Miss Evil Knits on Creativity. This episode will have the main theme of my design process. And this will be part 2, because in episode 6, I had the theme My Design Process Part 1, where we talked about what do I need. And if you haven't watched that episode, the episode 6, I would recommend you to do that, because then you will understand a little bit more what I'm actually talking about in this episode. But for all of you that have already watched episode 6, just a short resume. What we were talking about then, it was how to determine what do I need. And the theme is called My Design Process. It's because this is how I look at how to design a garment. There are probably plenty of other ways to do this, but this is mine. And if you want to use it, feel free. But as I see that the first part of my design process is to determine what do I need. And to do that, you need to understand, first decide on in what kind of situation am I going to use this garment? And then understand the requirements that that situation kind of requires from your garment. And after that, you can kind of look into how am I going to answer to those requirements. So the first part, we're talking about what do I need? And I'm very happy to see that I see some of you have posted on Instagram and talked about it, where you have actually used that method to modify your garments so that actually fits and answer to your needs and not only to the design itself. So I'm very happy that some of you have adapted that. So when you have determined on what do I actually need, what are the requirements that my garment need to fulfill to be able to be used in that specific situation or environment, then we go into creating a collection. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. And I want to stress once again that when I talk about designing and when I talk about here to create a collection, I don't mean that you should publish patterns and be a designer that publish patterns and make a living out of it, and that this is an education to be able to do that. It's not like that. And I am not, even if I can call myself a designer, I don't publish. And I don't want to publish patterns on Ravelry and other things. I have published a few designs, and that have been by video. But I design for myself, and to have knitted garments that fits my needs. So that is why I am doing this, to give you some tools and a way of thinking so that things that you knit can, even if it doesn't matter if you are using a pattern or a design that is already out there that someone else has made, or if you are making up something else by your own, but that you can actually adapt those designs to fit your needs. And that is when I talk about design process and making a collection. It is about that, not to publish pattern or become or make a living or doing it in a commercial way. So I want to make a collection, and I talked about that in episode 6 as well. What I mean with a collection, it is that a collection, to have something that is collection, I see it, and that's how I see this. It needs to be some kind of cohesive. To say that something belongs to a collection, it needs to be something that is cohesive around this. Sometimes you see that a collection is a collection because of the colors. It's designed around a specific color or color scheme. It can also be that it is designed around a specific material. It could be like a specific yarn, especially if it's some kind of like a brand or a yarn producer that is making collections. They are designing around a specific yarn and having a lot of different alternatives how to use that yarn. But I see that what makes a collection cohesive, it is connected to what we're actually discussing in episode 6. In what kind of situation am I going to use it? And for the person or persons that are going to use it, that we have like the cohesiveness is connected to that it is designed for a specific situation and a specific person or group of persons. And yeah, that is what is kind of connecting all the different garments in a collection. So that is how I see what makes a collection. Okay, the first step, as I see it, to make a collection, it is that to determine what do I need? In what kind of situation I'm going to use it? What does that situation or that environment require from the garment? And that is, I would say that if you miss out, if you don't do that step, it will be very difficult to actually get a garment that fits your needs. Then it's just a garment. And there's nothing wrong with that. I talked about that in episode 6 as well, that sometimes I just knit because I want to knit. But if you want to make like a garment that actually fits your needs, then you need to don't leave out that step. The next, I think that, or at least I look at what kind of material do I want to use to answer to those needs. And I would say that even if you kind of have a specific preference, that you like a specific fiber or material, just leave that behind a little bit and look into what are the requirements. Because if you prefer cotton, because you like that it's easy to wash and you like that it's nice and soft on your skin, but the need you have is for something that is warm and can be worn outside when it's raining and so on. And then you understand that the choice of material doesn't really fit your needs. So look into that, the need I have. what are the requirements when it comes to materials to actually answer to all those needs. And in my last episode, episode 7, I talked about the fibers and the different materials or yarn and the properties of those and how that can help you to determine what kind of material you should use in a design so it will actually meet the requirements you have on it. So you don't make the wrong choice, because then it will not be a perfect design for your needs. So that step. Then you need to decide on, I call it solutions. But you can, if you go on Ravelry and you do the filter function, you can see that there are some, you can choose from different design elements. And you can also look into fabric characteristics. And what I see here, it is that, okay, what kind of elements do I want to have in my design? For example, do I need a warm garment? Do I then want to have a high neck? How would that neck look like? Should it be rib? Should it be garter? Should it be something else? So do I prefer knitting bottom up or top down? Do I prefer what would be the most suitable to actually create that kind of garment I want to have? Do I want to use thick yarn, thin yarn, and that makes requirements for different needle sizes that I have? So different solutions without getting into the specific kind of design, how I put together all these kind of elements. And I would say that almost every episode that I have produced in this on creativity, there are some tips and themes that goes through these kind of different solutions or design elements, and how you can actually find ways to design for your specific needs. The next step, I see that there you can decide on the colors that you want to have, because I think that's important. It's not that makes the collection, but I think it's important that you have colors that you feel like represent the thing you want to, the thing you need, that it fits into that environment, and that if you're making a collection with several different garments, that those kind of works together. And I don't see that you need to have like everything in the same color, but that they are in some kind of the same color scheme. Is it muted? Is it kind of joyful and clear? Is it dark, light? And also it has to like, depends on, what you're going to use it for. Summer, winter, fall, spring, and so on. Indoors, outdoors. What are the colors I need to represent the things or the need I have from this garment? And when you have decided on those, because making collection is a lot about decisions, then you get into designing the garments. And somewhere up here, what do I need? You also decide on, okay, what kind of garments do I need? Is it sweater, cardigans, accessories and those kind of decisions. What are the actually garments I need? So these are the steps I see that you need to go through if you want to create a collection. A collection could be maybe not just one garment. It could be 2 garments and it could be 10 garments. It has to do with your needs. And in the introduction of this on creativity, I have been talking about these 3 elements that I see that build the creativity. And I see that the first step, what do I need? Yeah, that is inspiration. That is these kind of things that tickle your thoughts to actually want to make something and what I want to create. And the next 3 steps, yeah, I see that has to do with the knowledge, because you need to understand how these different choices actually are affecting the final result. So that has to do with knowledge. And then when we come to actually designing the garment, then you need courage to actually throw yourself out there. Even if you are creating from all by yourself, or if you are adapting or merging other patterns, you need the courage to actually do it and to allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from it. Because, yeah, you can't fail. You can the only way of failing is when you don't learn from it. But if you do mistake, you learn from it, and then you continue. Then you can only succeed. So inspiration, knowledge, and courage, it is what you need to create a collection. And I hope that all these episodes from episode 0 or 1 until now has provided you with these elements. So that was the introduction to this episode. Now we are going to look into my collection that I have started. I want to make a collection, and the name of it will be Vandring. Vandring is Swedish, and the meaning is like hiking, walking, but it can also be more, you call it, metaphorical. That means like you can walk through life, that the life is a kind of vandring genom livet. So I will now talk about my collection, Vandring. In episode 6, you were able to join me on a walk, on a vandring, where I reflected on what do I actually need to be in that situation, to be in that environment, and what are the requirements on my garments then. After that little walk, I have continued to think about it. What do I actually need? What is the different design elements and solutions and so on that I need to fulfill and answer to have garments that actually answers to my needs and can be helpful and actually make my vandring more enjoyable, that covers me and warms me when I'm cold, and so on. So now I'm going to talk about how my process, my design process to actually come up with this collection. And I will also show you how far I have come, because I have been casting on like a crazy lady. It has been hilarious. I think that I have started a new project more or less every second night. Yeah, it has been really fun and really inspiring to do this. So the inspiration behind everything, as I said, it was walking, hiking in the woods, and doing that in the not during the summer and not during the winter, but in the autumn or in the spring, where you need to have garments that keeps you warm, both while walking and also while taking a pause, resting and camping. I saw that I want to have garments in the collection that works in those kind of environment and temperature that you have in the Swedish fall and maybe spring, that it will be suitable for just a short walk, just to get out for a short walk for an hour or so, but also for a walk that is lasting for a day or for multiple days. And except from the requirements that it should keep me warm, covered, and so on, it also needs to be lightweight and easy to pack into my backpack. And also not too sensitive. I want it to be able to wear it without feeling that I have to be careful. And it also needs to be safe. And it needs to be safe around fire. And if you haven't watched episode 7, please do so. And then you understand what I mean with safe around fire. Campfire and any kind of fire. So I have here gathered some of the items that kind of represent this, what do I need, and what has been the inspiration behind the collection. It's my hiking boots that I have here that I just love. And they represent so much of this hiking for me. I have here a project bag that I actually bought from Sigrid Wildsele. But I see that this represents the forest, the fall, that time of the year, and in that environment where I want to be able to use the collection or the environment that it's actually designed for. I have my trousers that you perhaps have seen in pictures and videos that I've been wearing. I just love these trousers that are from Fjällräven that I love. I have a backpack. It represents this kind of walking, day trips, longer trips. I have different backpacks depending on how long the trip will last. But this just represents that it should be packable. I need to be able to pack the things that I'm not wearing, but I'm carrying, for example, to be able to wear during a resting or do at the campsite. I have the axe that represents making fire, sit around fire, being at the campsite. I have another project bag from Beste Dräng that is made in natural materials, handcrafted, And it represents that I want to be able to knit during my walks, min vandring, and also this handmade, that it should be as natural as possible. That I want to have a design that not only matches the nature and the environment, but also kind of is a part of it that become one with nature, if you understand what I mean. And I have, well, it's a water bottle, but that's represent this, that both walking and also resting, to be able to be out for a longer time. And then I have a spindle with wool, and that represent my choice of material that I want to. When it comes to materials, I choose wool. And that is because of this environment that I wanted to work with. And that it should be able to keep me warm. It should keep me dry, because wool have those kind of properties that it repel water, but that it also keep my body, when I'm sweating, it keeps my body warm and dry. And it's also safe around fire, because I want to be able to sit next to a fire to maintain the fire without being afraid that my garment will catch fire and I will get severe burn damage. So this is what kind of represent what I want my design to kind of, what I need from the design. Wool, 100% wool, it's a quite easy decision. When it comes to the different solutions or design elements and that I see that I want to kind of frame the design of the garments, I want to have garments that are, as I said, I don't want to have to be that careful. I want them to be a little bit, let's say, rough. I want them to, even if they get like kind of worn, they should age beautifully. It shouldn't really matter if they get dirty or kind of pilling or something. It should just add to their function. And I want them to be more functional than kind of decorated. So I want the fabric to be quite simple and not, it's beautiful. I don't want to call it that. It's beautiful. The simplicity is beautiful, but I don't really see that I need to decorate it to make them beautiful. I want them to be beautiful on its own. And I want to use knits and purls for achieving this kind of beauty, simplicity, and functions. So alternating knits and purls in different ways should be like the red thread through this kind of the characteristics of the fabric. And I want to stick to constructions that I feel like I know how to get a garment that fits me. It's usually top down. It's the yoke constructions that I like, and know that, okay, if I use it, it will become a good fitted fabric. So that is kind of the different solutions that I see that I want to have. Since I want them to work in this kind of environment, I want them to be quite warm. I don't have any need of garments that keeps me cool. They should keep me warm, because if I get warm, I can just take the garment off and wear a t-shirt or something else. So they should keep me warm. So they should be thick enough to keep me warm, but thin enough to be packable. So there I see that if I use a Nutiden yarn, I will probably use 2 strands, but not 3 strands, except if it's like an accessory or a smaller item. And that means that I will have the needles between like 4 and 6 millimeters, somewhere in that area. So that is what I see, that the different design elements that I want to kind of also participate to the coherence. The coherence comes from that I'm going to use it, that I am going to use it in this kind of environment, in these kind of situations. And when it comes to the coherence, when it is the design details or elements, it comes from knits and pearls, and that it has this kind of thickness and of the material. When it comes to colors, I was actually inspired by this, that it is this kind of color scheme that I want to have, because I want my different knitted garments to work with, for example, my trousers or my boots, that I feel like I want to have it to be a complement to my boots, and not that I buy boots that complements my knitted garments. I want to stick to these kind of colors, because that is those colors that I use when I'm in that situation that I'm designing for. And when it comes to these colors, is what you see out in the woods, at least here in Sweden, during the autumn and also early spring, before it's getting this really crispy greens on the trees. So I see that the color scheme should be around this. So when I had decided on what materials and what colors I wanted to use, I dived into my yarn stash and looked for yarn that fits the requirements I had for both the fibers, the thickness, and the colors. And this is what I found. And I have Nutiden, because that is what I'm mainly knitting from now. I found woolen yarn that I have bought. It's a Gotland sheep that is spun and dyed in Sweden. I found some yarn that comes from the Värmland sheep, and this is spun by Avelsås. That is Värmland. Maybe you want to look at this one. This was perfect, because I think, let's see, the höstbrun, the autumn brown. So it was like, now I understand why this yarn had just been lying in my stash, waiting for the right project, because this is perfect into my collection. I found some nice yarn from Rauma. It's Vams. I also think they have beautiful colors and perfect for this collection. I have another spun yarn that it also have a beautiful color. It's kind of, I don't know what the color name is. This is the color is limited edition. Isn't that perfect? So that one I have also been laying around for several years, waiting for the perfect project. I also found, or this is actually a gift from a friend. This is handspun, and they are from sheep that lives nearby where I live. So I saw that this fits also perfectly, and maybe will turn into something nice accessory. And I also just got in something I bought from in this kind of package or with different items. That was like a surprise package from Wild in the Woods. That is also this soft, warm brown color that also works perfectly in the color scheme that I want to use. So this is that I found. I'm not sure that I will knit with everything, but it was like, having this kind of colors to start with, to actually be able to knit my collection. And that also started when I got the yarn. The creativity started to kind of feel the yarn, to compare them, put them next to each other. Then I could see how what I want to knit in and how they can combine and if it fits together. I actually took all these yarns and just put them on a stool so I could watch it. And I added some yarn and I took away some yarn just to see that, okay, now I see that this is harmony. It's a coherent color scheme, but still every color have its own place somehow. So these are the colors and the materials that I want to use. I have talked about the different design elements and solutions that I am planning on having in my collection. So I guess that you are quite curious to look at what I have designed and knitted so far. And I have it all next to me here. So I think that we just get started. And before I show you, I just want to stress, these are things that I will not produce or create any patterns or video recipes or anything like that on. These have only been things that I have been knitting for my own sake, my own need. So I will not produce any patterns, but I will talk about how I have the thoughts behind it, the construction, and so on, and many things of the different constructions and those things that are in my previous episodes. So these are, these constructions and the way I have been creating it is what I feel that I like, that I know will give me something that actually fills my needs. So the first one I actually started on was this one. The body is finished, but not the arms. I guess that I will have so many arms to finish. So maybe I will actually start liking arms after this collection. A sweater. This is actually from an existing pattern that I have had in my library for a long time, and it's called Mountain High. And I think it's Heidi Kermeyer. And it's a beautiful design, because it kind of represents what I want to have in my collection. The simplicity, but where every design element feels a specific purpose. And here you have this kind of garter column in the middle that is not just decoration. It helps give the sweater, the front piece, a shape, since there are decreases here and you are increasing in the size. So it's actually a part of the design to give the shape. I knitted this in Nutida, 2 strands. I guess I had like needle 5 or something. And it's the colorway Tallbark. It's from the latest collection, where I was so happy to see that the latest collection was right up my alley of the colors that I wanted to use. So this is Tallbark. And when I felt the yarn, when I got it, I felt that this is very soft. It has, when it's knitted up, it got a texture that, and I mean this with all positive meaning you can have, that it looks a little like worn. It looks that it is have been warm and loved for a long time, even if it's just, I haven't washed it. Can you see it there? You can see it better. It still looks like it's something that I have had around for a long time and just worn and worn and worn. So it looks a little bit, yeah. And I really like that, because this is what I want my whole collection to be about. That is things that you can just wear, and it's when it starts peeling or maybe get warmed or damaged in some way, it just gets more beautiful. So this sweater, it is the purpose that it fills in my collection. It is to be that kind of very versatile garment that you can use both for walking in and also while taking a break. It should be this garment that I have hanging next to the door that I put on when I just want to go for a short walk. It is this garment that is always in my backpack, because it's pretty light, pretty packable, and it fills all these, it's not specialized in anything, but it fills all these needs that you may have. So I'm going to add arms, of course. I'm going to make them quite long, quite tight down at the wrist. And I'm going to make pick-up stitches. I make a neck, also quite high, not too high, but high, so it feels like my neck is covered. So this Tallbark sweater is kind of it represents very much the collection. So here I have the collection in one piece. So that was the first one. A simple design, a genius design, Mountain High. You can find it on Ravelry if you want to make something similar. I haven't followed the pattern perfectly, but more or less, actually. The next one I have, it is this one. And this is the one that I'm knitting on right now. I casted it on a couple of evenings ago. It's quite fast knitting. The purpose of this one, it is a little bit similar to the first one. It is that I wanted to have also something that is light, packable, to have as this extra layer. And the extra layer when it perhaps not that cold, but especially a extra layer when I want to be specific packable. So I wanted to create a fabric that can trap a lot of air. And that's why I choose to have this garter rib. You see it. It is then you make like one round with a knit one per one, and then the next round you only knit. And that makes a fabric that is not flat, as in like garter stitch, or in a stockinette stitch, but it gives a little bit extra depth. So it means that it will be a little bit, this garter gives a little bit more air, that creates some pockets that you can have air in, and the air is the isolation. I also, this is like the wrong side, which I actually think is the most beautiful side. And here you can maybe see a little bit more up that since it's not like this even smooth surface, it will trap some air. But it will not keep me warm if it's windy, because then the air will not be like standing still and trapped there. So this is a garment to be able to put on extra layer when I'm taking a break, and have, even if it's no wind at all, or if I'm indoor or in a shelter or something, but especially if I'm wearing a jacket over it. So then it will be the weight of this, the pack size of it will be quite small, but it will give, as I'm thinking, a little bit more warmth than just a stockinette sweater would give in the same yarn. So that is like the thought behind it. And since I want to be able to wear this under a jacket, I want to make it quite fitted. So it's not too large in the arms or in the body. It should be easy to wear under a jacket, a windproof jacket. I have chosen to make this this continuous sleeve. You can find a very good pattern for making this in this Albina's Versal or Versal, that pattern. And but I'm just freebasing on it. That pattern is in stockinette, so I just made it with this broken rib instead. I'm going to make also the arms long with some extra lengths, maybe to have as a fingerless mitten cuff, and also a high neck, so I can wear this as this extra layer when taking a break. And the color of the yarn, it's 2 strands of Nutiden. I also think I have 5 millimeters on this, and it's the color Bärighet. This is, it's a little bit red, pink, purple, brown skin. So that is another sweater. Then go to the bottom of this pile. Whoops. Then I have a third sweater. And generally I'm preferring sweaters, especially for those needs I have, because I don't like bottoms and doing this. I just want to pull it on and leave it there. So I have another sweater, and the purpose for this one, it is definitely to have at the campsite. Because this one, I want to have it really warm and cozy. Maybe even so I can wear it in my sleeping bag or when sleeping, if it should be really cold. And for that, I wanted to have a high neck that I can wear like this, or just fold it down. For a little bit the same purpose as this one with the broken rib, I made here 2x2 rib. And it's also to give this a little bit extra thickness without adding extra fabric or extra weight, or but just keep it a little bit thicker by like the fabric's construction, or this rib material. I will make long arms, long cuffs on this one as well. And I also use this continuous sleeve design for this one. And I think it really looks very beautiful when you do it then in that way. You see like how the lines are creating. And also why I choose this 2x2 rib, it is because the rib, it will kind of form after my body, and it's also a way to keep a garment quite tight without having the negative ease. So it will kind of form after my body, and I think that is also important. For example, if you're wearing it under a jacket or something, that it actually it's not too big on you. So in that way, you can see here, it's like it kind of moves, so it can adapt well to your body. And also, if you are wearing another garment under, it's easy to put this on because then it will kind of grow a little bit. And also, if you have something over it, then it will pull together. So this is a magic. And this is the color also from the latest Nutiden collection. It is kind of green, gray, sage color that is called Dvala. So I find that that name of the yarn very, I don't know if that inspired me by making a garment that I'm going to use at the campsite when I'm actually resting or sleeping. So that one. So here is 3 quite similar sweaters, but they had their specific purpose. And I think that they work well together. This one, like walking during the day, can you see it? Yeah, this tallbark. And wearing this one at night, or maybe just having this one with me for an extra layer in case of it will be a little bit cold. So 2 strands, Nutiden, simple designs. And I should also mention that I have one idea with all the garments I knit, that they should be more or less maybe not the first one, but they should be able to wear from the right side and the wrong side. So they should be reversible. Because I think that is, I like that. This one, it doesn't matter because it's the same. But for this one, it's a different expression because it's a different fabric from the right side and the wrong side. The next I want to show you, and I have started. Oop. Swimming out of the... So, it's actually this one from this Lipsticka yarn that is called Höstbrun, Autumn Brown. It's a Gotland yarn. It's a spun yarn that is quite thin. It's kind of like sport weight or fingering thickness on it. And I thought that, okay, I have now 3 that are not super thick, but they are still thick sweaters. And I feel like then I need to have a sweater that is thin to be able to walk in or have as an extra layer, but maybe mainly to be able to walk in since it's a little bit thinner. So I have divided. I actually decided on finishing the arms on this one. It's a simple raglan construction. And I'm not really sure how I will make the neck and the cuffs and the how long I want to make it. So this is a little bit that I have to decide during the way. And that is also why I started to do the arms. So I can make the arms the length I want and then kind of feel, okay, what role does this sweater actually have in my collection? And what needs do I have? Should I have a high neck, or maybe just add a few centimeters to the neck and combine this with something else? Or, yeah, so I'm not really sure. But I wanted to have something that is a little bit thinner. And yeah, the color is just beautiful. So that's why I started thinking maybe I should do like a 2x2 rib or something like that on this one as well. But since it's such a beautiful dyed yarn, I thought that, okay, a nice stockinette sweater, it's very simple, should be most complementing to the yarn here. So yeah, a simple sweater that can be worn with this side out or the reversed side out. And I like this with I think simplicity is something that I want to achieve with most of my garments that I knit, because simplicity is not the same thing. It's something is kind of just simple and easy and lacking the dimensions. And simple is not that I didn't have the time or the creativity or something to do something with it. Simplicity has to do with that you have an idea and then you are taking away everything that is not necessary. So what is left is what is the necessary thing. So that is simplicity to me. So that is, for me, it's something very positive to adapt or put simplicity into a project. It means that you need to have a lot of skills to be able to see what is needed and what is just nice on it. So yeah, simplicity is something that I'm aiming for. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have a 5th sweater as well. Okay, and whoops, everything fell. And it's this one. And I don't know if you can see it, but this is almost like a kind of body armor. This is a thick sweater, because I saw that, okay, I want to have a thick sweater, maybe not only for the warmth, but something that is kind of really rough and tough and can stand. There's something that I can use at the campsite. When you're coming there, you want to make a fire, you have to go out in the woods to collect firewood and carry it around and doing things and kind of work without being afraid that something will get stuck in the material or maybe rip it and you have a hole and you have to mend it. So I wanted to make something that is kind of a workhorse, something that you can put on and work in, and not have to put a jacket on just because you don't want your knitted garment to break. So this is it. This is my workhorse. This is my body armor. And it is knitted with, see a little bit. It's 2 strands of Nutiden, and it's the colorway Viltspår. That is this kind of beige, pink, gray yarn. So Viltspår. And I have 1 strand of a spun yarn that is this from the Värmland sheep. So I have 3 strands, but this is actually like it's a 2-ply yarn. So it's not 3 strands, it's more strands. I'm using 6.5, so it creates a quite dense fabric. But I wanted to have this as the one that, to wear at the campsite when I'm working, making a fire, all these kind of things that you maybe don't want to do in a knitted garment because you can be afraid that it will damage the garment. So this should be the one that I use. We have an expression in Sweden that says oömma kläder. So this should be really the one that is oöm. It's something that you can use without being, you don't have to be that careful. I have also used the continuous sleeve method for this one. And I have also seen that this one could be worn in reverse. So I have made a little this kind of knits. That's actually pearls on that side. But I think that it could be nice to wear from the other side as well. So, I have no idea how I want to make the cuffs and the neck on this one. Maybe not too high neck, maybe not too long cuffs for the hands. If I make a little bit longer cuffs, I need to be able to fold them up without it being too bulky, because I want to be able to work in it and have it around the fire and cooking in it and fetching water and all these kind of things. And also just to take it for a walk, since I think that this is going to be quite warm. I think that if it's a cold day, I can have this one as the thing I actually walk in. So these are the sweaters that I have started, as you see. It's to do the yoke is really quick, and then to do the body is also quite fun. The arms are not really done yet. And before I show you the rest that I have here, I saw that what I have already started a long time ago, this sweater, the Lunenburg sweater by Amy Christoffers, that I have modified to fit in a sticky yarn. It's also, of course, it's in the color scheme, but I think that it will also serve the purpose in the collection, because I want to have something with color work in the yoke, just to have this a little bit extra layer in the yoke without being too warm. So this one I will finish and have like, what do I need for this collection in my mind when I finish it? Maybe I will pick up and add, you see it? Well, no. Add some extra length for the neck. And make sure that the arms and cuffs are long to cover the hands. And I also have this sweater that I also started some time ago, that it knitted in actually this colorway, offerings of tree, or tree offerings. That is also exactly what I want to have in the collection. It's tight cuffs on the arms, a nice layer to either walk in or have as an extra layer in your backpack. So this one I also want to finish soon and to add it into the collection. I have focused on sweaters because I think that creates like the core in the collection. But I have also started some accessories. There I have. Whoops. Yarn everywhere. I knitted a pair of Vila Mitten. You have probably seen this on Instagram, if you're following me there. A pair of Vila Mitten knitted in Rauma Vams, and I have Nutiden here in the cuff. And I knitted them quite tight because this will be my mittens to actually have together with this one. Working, be able to have into the fire, to have at the campsite, that I can keep hands warm, but they are not too big, so I can actually work with them. I also started a hat. It's the same color, same yarn. And I made this just hat or beanie in broken rib. And yeah, a simple one, but still very functional. You can wear with this side out or the other, the reversed side out, that I think makes it really a really wonderful fabric. So simple beanie. I think I casted on 68 stitches on 4.5 and then made this kind of broken rib for a few centimeters, and then I shifted to a little bit larger needles, 5.5 or 6 millimeters, and then just continued. I didn't do any increases or decreases, so I think I have 68 stitches. So yeah, very simple. And then I made also another simple hat with it's actually a simple 1x1 cable, and it's made in the same yarn as this sweater. So just a simple hat to be able to wear while walking or while just trying to keep warm. So I will continue doing some accessories. I haven't really decided on what accessories I need. But I think that I will finish my sweaters and then see, okay, what do I need to add on to still feel the purpose, to fill my needs with this collection. I have also started a skirt. Here, that I have in a black Nutiden yarn called Hello Darkness from an old collection. And I made just a tube with stockinette that I haven't connected yet, but I will do. I think I would just sew in. I don't want to have any bottoms or things. I'll just sew that, but it could look like I have a bottom or something. And then I just picked up stitches and made this in a kind of broken rib, where it's knit 3, purl 2, or then just knit the second round. So 3 + 2 stitches on this one. And it will not be a tight skirt. See, it will be not be tight over my hips. But I see this also as something that can be worn around the campsite, or just to have during a break when it's really cold outside to warm your hips and thighs. Maybe not that packable and small. I use 3 strands of Nutiden for it, and kind of maybe 6 millimeters, something like that. But I think that this will be very nice during the winter, both for walking, but mainly for maybe around the campsite, or taking a break, or something to keep warm. I haven't knitted a skirt before, so this is really interesting. And I think that I will, when I'm making it, I will try to make it really quite long, so more or less down to the knee, and see if I can make some kind of construction so I can keep it. I think maybe if I have some kind of a band or something that I can actually have the lower part on the front and the back between my legs to keep it together, so it doesn't like blow up too much and stays covering my legs. So I will see on that one. But this one I'm also working on, and I'm really excited to see what this will become. Since sweaters I have done plenty, but not skirts. So it will be interesting. So this is what I have been knitting so far in my collection Vandring. I don't know if you can tell, but I have been really enjoying creating this collection. It has, I really enjoyed it. And the whole process and knitting it, and knowing that when I have finished it, I have finished a garment, it will be exactly what I need. Now to my best tip for this episode. And I don't know if you have, but I have some garments that I want to use, but there is something that is missing on the garment that makes it that it doesn't have that function. It doesn't fill the purpose perfectly. So I want to give you some tip on how you can actually modify or complement the garment so it fills your needs. And I will start actually with the sweater I'm wearing that you have been seeing here for the whole episode. And I don't know when I started knitting it. It is at least a year old, I would say. It is, a simple raglan sweater. I knitted it from an existing pattern that's called Blue House. I think that's also Heidi Kermeyer. I'm not 100%. Nevertheless, I have been wearing this one quite a lot when I have been out hiking. mostly day trips. And when I have been wearing it and it started to get a little bit cold outside, I have identified the pros and cons with this sweater. It is perfect. It's light. It's very cozy. I really like wearing it. I don't find it itchy at all. It's Nutiden and the colorway with seed. That is one of the first colors I bought from Nutiden. I find it, when the last time I wore it, it was a little bit windy. It wasn't super cold, but it was a little bit cold. It was chilly. And I wore this with like a thin sweater under. And I also had a vest, a bought vest that I wore under to get some extra layer on the chest. But usually I just had that vest when I was resting. But I found that actually, even though it was a little bit windy, I didn't feel cold on my body, on the torso, or on my arms. So it actually worked quite well. I had a friend with me, and he was wearing like this thin layer and a sweater that was in this Woolpower Ullfrotté. It's a Swedish company. And he was actually cold, so he wore a jacket, a windproof jacket over it, because he felt like it was a little bit too cold for the body. But I didn't feel that I needed to have some extra layer. And that was quite positive. What I felt, though, it was that they are a little bit too wide here. So it meant that when it was windy, I got the air in to my arm, and also my wrists was, they were a little bit exposed, and I was a little bit cold here. And the same thing with the neck, because it doesn't have a really high neck on this one, and it's not really that tight. So I thought a little bit, because I love the sweater, and how can I make this one more versatile so I can actually use it more and without getting cold here or cold around my neck. And I thought a little bit that maybe I can just pick up stitches and knit a neck and knit some wrist warmers in this one. And that is something that you can do. But I thought that, okay, maybe it will limit the use of it, because then it can become a little bit too warm if I want to wear it when it's a little bit warmer outside and I want to have this kind of a little bit airier construction. So I decided that I will make a loose neck warmer that I just made from some unspun yarn I had at home. It's unspun with 100% fin ull. It's not Nutiden, it's another brand, Filtmakeriet. And I thought that most cowls that you can find pattern on, I find them very wide, and I haven't really understood the use of those. I have knitted a few, but I never use them because they are so wide. So I wanted to have a really tight neck warmer. So I made this with 3x1 rib that you can also reverse and have it that way. So a tight rib. I don't remember how many stitches or needles on this one. And just to be able to wear and either put it outside the color, or, as I thought, actually put it inside. And it will serve the same purpose as if I had picked up stitches and and made an extra collar. So a neck warmer. And since it's loose, it's so easy to just, when I feel a little bit too warm, I just take it off. And then the wind can cool my neck. And I also made some fingerless mittens. I used my Vila mitten recipe. And I didn't make them very long. I made them quite short. I could have made it really long. But usually when I'm wearing this one, and if it's a temperature outside that I feel like I need something for my hands, I also wear a thin layer under it. So that thin layer, it will come down here. So it will be that length. So this one is actually mostly for just keeping my hands and the part of my wrist warm. So I think that this will help to keep me a little bit warmer in this area. Because I like to have something. I like to have a sweater that I can pull down and attach to have it like this. And now I have these fingerless mittens that will actually warm. If I feel that I want to make them longer, it's just to pick up stitches and make them longer, or I make a pair of longer mittens, or maybe that is only wrist warmers that doesn't have a thumb or something, but it's only a tube to fill there. And I had some yarn left. This one is in another, is it spun yarn? I don't know. I think it's a Finnish brand. I had some yarn left, and for that, I also made myself something to warm my head. So, in a very simple way, I made this sweater from being something that I mainly used when it was not too cold and not too windy. Now I have made it, I don't know, have I prolonged the season for it by having this loose neck, a matching half mittens, and a hat. And it's almost actually the same color. So it matches this sweater, and it's like accessories to this sweater. I really like it. And I think that, this is also a way of making a collection, having this kind of thought that how can I make something more versatile by having these kind of, I don't have to have everything built into the garment. I can actually have things that adds, and then you can add on and then take off depending on the situation. The other thing I want to show you, I showed this one also in episode 6, sweater that I just wanted to knit it, and I just cast it on and knitted it, and I didn't have any purpose at all with it. I made it nice tight arms, a simple hem, and I made this lace in the side just to try out this lace pattern that I found in a yoga sweater. I wanted just to try out and see how can I make this kind of decoration on the garment. But this sweater is kind of sweater, it is too warm to wear indoors, but the neck is more for an indoor sweater. And since I don't have the neck on it, it's too cold to wear outdoors, or I need to have some kind of shawl or something else to add on to be able to wear it, or I need to have something under a sweater with a high neck or something. And I don't really like that. I prefer having things kind of built into the garment. So to be able to use this one, I will pick up stitches here and the neck. And I think that having this kind of I-cord cast on is very good because it's easy to pick up stitches. And I have the yarn. I have some yarn left. And I will knit a high neck for this sweater. Because then I think then it will be a perfect sweater to wear outdoors. Because it will warm me. I will have a warm neck. It will have these, as I like, tight, long cuffs that can warm the arms and the wrists in the way that I have been talking about this design. So that is another tip I have, that actually, instead of adding things that can complement the garment, actually add things on the garment to make it the garment that you actually need to have. So, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. I hope that I have encouraged you to create your collection. I hope that I have encouraged you to find your inspiration, to seek the knowledge, and to be courageous, to be brave, to actually start doing your own thing and create things that are answering to your needs. This is episode number 8, and that means that I have 2 episodes left to record. I don't know exactly when they will come out. If I will stick to the about 3 weeks every 3rd week, or if it will take a little bit longer. The episode number 10 will be the recipe for the Huldra slipover or Huldra vest, and that will take some time to record it. And then episode number 9, I will, at least part of it, will be kind of summarizing, looking back, looking forward, and see what have I learned from these on creativity episodes. And for that, I would very much like to hear from you and hear, what have you learned? How have you developed from these 8 episodes? And how will you take this with you into the future? So I will be so happy if you can comment on that, because that will help me to plan and create my next episode. So until then, take care, be strong, be kind, and be brave. See you later.